Welcome back to another episode of When Bad Things Happen to Good People, the podcast about censorship and the arts. My name's Todd Sullivan. With me, as always, is Oren Barter.
That's me.
And joining us this week is a very special guest, friend of the podcast, Mr. Dave Coalmine.
Oh, hello. So glad to be here.
And today we are taking a look at the 1989 Two Live Crew album, Nasty As They Wanna Be.
Ooh.
Music break.
I know. I love your show. I listen to it. I know how this works. It's exciting. I get to be on it.
Yeah. We have an actual format. Actually, I mean, all good podcasts have a format. Your podcast is a format. And Dave, while we're starting out, why don't you tell us? It's good to see you here.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've been on. Really glad to have you on because, of course, you are a very talented musician, and we're taking a look at a musical subject this week. But you are also a podcaster in your own right.
Yeah, thanks so much, Todd. It is cool to be here. I am a full-time professional musician up here in Canada. And and since pandemic, I've created my own podcast called Mysteries and Madness, which I co-host with Todd Sullivan, who you guys are familiar with.
Love that name.
The premise is that Todd Sullivan is a detective in 1945, solving cases with supernatural elements, and I play all the characters he runs into, and then take that audio that we record and turn it into a radio drama full of sound effects and Foley and just a general sense of the space. If you're in a warehouse, you can hear the echo, and if you get out of your car, you can hear the car door. And just trying to bring the listener with us on the journey we go on.
And that sense of space is so well realized in the podcast. Like, we've got a new episode we're recording this coming weekend, and so I have to get caught up in the podcast so I remember like what happened in the last couple episodes before I dive in again. So I was listening to a recent episode today, and you should just let yourself kind of ooze into it, just sort of let it envelop you and experience the world. It's quite a unique thing.
Well, thanks so much. It's Mysteries and Madness. Mysteries and Madness. So check it out if you're interested.
You can find that on all your regular podcast apps.
It's you know what, and it's really it's so cool in that sort of situation. Like with this podcast, it doesn't really matter where we are. We don't have to create a sense of structure anywhere. Like we just talk. But with yours, like with the things that you add, the things that you do, the world that you create, because a lot of what you see is what you hear, and like when I listen to your podcast, I really do picture everything in my head, and every little piece that you put in there really does resonate visually, and like it's freaking awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
High praise coming from you, Oren. Oren is also a terrific musician, and so I really do appreciate his insights, and thank you very much, man. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm super glad to have two musicians on this show while we discuss a musical subject that I may be offering less insight to than usual, or I guess we'll see.
Cool.
Before we get into that, though, we have our usual check-in on beverages.
Yes.
You have a beverage in front of you, Oren?
I do. So I was trying to actually find a drink that would kind of work with the theme of today's podcast.
Okay.
So I was trying to find like some craft beer that was like had some super slutty like girl on the front. I guess there's the Red Racer is pretty much the sluttiest one I can think of. Couldn't find any Red Racer or anything like that.
Sorry, yeah. that hot take that Red Racer's the sluttiest of the beers is a fucking fantastic hot take. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. But I really couldn't find anything that reached the level of nastiness of this album.
Right.
So what I ended up getting was good, clean fun. So I thought I would cleanse my palate with some good, clean fun after listening to this album.
required, I think, after this nasty album.
Yeah.
So this is a West Coast IPA. It's from Twin Sails Brewing, and it's actually really good. So that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah, Todd, you asked me what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Whistler Brewing Company Grapefruit Ale.
I've had that.
Pick that up after work. We're here in Kamloops, British Columbia, and spring has sprung, and it got pretty warm today. And I drank this now empty can of beer in my driveway with sweat on my brow just from the beautiful sunshine, and it was a great moment. I really enjoyed that moment. And now, because the evening is nearing the end, I have a Wiley Wolverine because it's 8%. Nice. Yeah,
there you go.
You only need one of those. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now.
I like those grapefruit beer, and there's something about having a nice cold beer right in the warm sun. That's a chef kiss kind of moment.
I mean, it's delicious, but it's also like completely the wrong thing you want to be drinking when you're sweating.
Yeah, it's not very hydrating, I guess, ultimately.
But it feels like it is.
Feels good.
It feels great. It feels amazing.
I picked up a sampler pack of a bunch of sours from a brewery I haven't tried before called Spectrum Beer Company. And I'm currently drinking a fuzzy peach sour from them.
Okay.
I have tried. They have a hot pink lemonade that I tried one of earlier this week, and then just before this, they had a black cherry sour as well. So far of the three, the fuzzy peach I like the best.
Very cool. What's the name of that brewing company again, Todd?
It is Spectrum.
The Spectrum logo looks like the Umbrella Corporation logo from Resident Evil. That's what I saw.
Little bit, that bit right there.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
That's it's like a hexagonal shape with like an intricate design inside the hexagon.
Yeah.
I don't know. It gives the Umbrella vibes. Maybe it's just the new Resident Evil coming out this week.
Maybe. Yeah. I hope it doesn't. I hope there's no T virus inside this for me.
That's right.
You already got that with your vaccine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, am I? Okay, good. Good. And that comes with the 5G then.
Bro, you got 5G?
I got 5G in my arm, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I got my shot too.
Yeah, as do I. So there you go.
Did you actually?
Happening. Yeah, I work for the Red Cross, so that.
Oh, okay,
of course, I received a little.
Okay, so let's get into this. Many years ago, the year 1989. Strange time to be alive. Out of curiosity, how old were you guys in 1989? If alive at all.
I was 7 years old. I'm an 82 baby.
Okay.
In 19.
I was one.
You were one. Okay.
Maybe at best. I was like less than one for most of 89.
What kind of an impact, Oren, did this album have on you when you were 1 year old?
Zero. I was too busy listening to did Thriller, I think it was Thriller, I used to listen to as a baby, and Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Okay.
That's what my parents would put that. I'd cry just to listen to. I'd cry. They'd try to feed me. I wouldn't want any food. Nothing. They'd put on CCR and I would calm right down.
Gotcha.
Like many youths, he just craved the Michael Jackson.
Yeah. I would have been 7.
I almost did a spit take there. My mouth was full of beer when you said that.
I know. I got away with it.
I was 17 when this album came out, but it completely passed me by. This was not the kind of music I was listening to. Probably not really the kind of music I'm listening to now. It was released on the Skywalker Records label. That was the label owned by Luther Campbell, who was a member of Two Live Crew.
Okay.
Not always, though. He kind of started the record label, Skywalker Records, with two Ys, because his stage name was Luke Skywalker with two Ys, sometimes three, apparently. And he kind of discovered the initial Two Live Crew, brought them to, I believe, Florida, where they
It makes sense that this came out of
popularity.
Florida.
And he ended up joining the band after signing them to his label.
Okay.
This Nasty As They Want to Be was the last release from Skywalker Records because they were sued by none other than George Lucas. It was also the group's largest seller, reaching double platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America. I got a bunch of history here that I'm going to go through before we get into like the actual album.
The history part there was interesting. You said this album grossed well. Is it this version or the clean version, or do they combine the two? That's what I want.
Okay.
That's a really good question. I doubt it's the clean version that was the highest grossing. I'm just guessing that like the way that like platinum albums and double platinum albums are decided, it's based on a single album, not like all versions of a release.
10-4.
Right? So this would be this album.
Is that true?
That, you know,
I would have thought it would be like the combined, but
why though?
because it's the same music, it's just altered a little bit.
Yeah, but it's based on the sales of a record, right? So it's based on the sales of a single release.
Okay. Yeah, and they made
this release
2 releases versus like Cypress Hill's Black Sunday had a clean version I got through Columbia House, but that would have been one. It was just the clean version of the same record, whereas this one was re-released under a different name.
I see.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I understand. I understand. Right.
So it's not like Todd's one with good.
So it's not like it was one with explicit content, one without, but everything the same, like everything else the same, just with that parental advisory ripped off. Like they released it 2 completely different.
2 complete albums. They had an entirely different name. It was called As Clean as They Want to Be. The track listing was slightly different.
It was.
Because it included 2 songs, I believe, that weren't on Nasty as They Want to Be, including a parody of Roy Orbison's... do you remember this, Dave?
Pretty Woman?
You sound like you know what I'm talking about.
I think it was Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman, yeah.
Pretty Woman.
And here's another example. These guys have been responsible for some major legal decisions regarding music and copyright in America. The Pretty Woman song led to another court case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. This is not what we're talking about today, but I'll mention it anyway. About whether or not a parody still counted as a parody if it was profitable.
Okay.
Right?
So they won that one, obviously.
They won that one, absolutely.
Because now there's like, Just Eat It by Weird... Like, there's
Weird Al's career.
Like,
yeah.
well, see, this. I'm pretty sure Weird Al's career started before that lawsuit happened, but it's just, I don't think anybody ever tried to fight him for it because he always got permission.
Right.
He always reached out to the artist and was like, hey, I want to do this song. Do you mind?
That's right.
These guys were like, fuck Roy Orbison. We'll do whatever the fuck we want to do. And then they did it all the way to the Supreme Court and won.
Okay.
So back to Nasty as We Want to Be. It was released with the explicit lyrics advisory sticker that we've all come to know and tolerate. But there were some people who didn't think that sticker went far enough given the content. They were like, this doesn't really, like, this is unlike anything that we were prepared for when we came up with this labeling system. And so the album was investigated by the Broward County Sheriff's Office in Florida in February 1990. And a federal district judge, Jose Gonzalez, ruled that the album was obscene, making it illegal to own or to sell or whatever in certain counties in Florida. Okay. Following that, June 9th, 1990, the 3 band members were arrested at a sex club in Broward County. I don't know what a sex club is. I'm assuming it's a strip club, but anyway, they were arrested at a sex club.
They had strip clubs in the 80s. I'm pretty sure they were having sex in that club.
But they were arrested for performing the music, and their albums were seized as well. Eventually, the case would reach the 11th U.S. District Court of Appeals, which reversed Gonzalez's ruling, basically stating that the argument of the state was that it was obscene and had no artistic value.
Okay.
But the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals found that the state did not prove that it had no artistic value. From there, Florida tried to take it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court didn't want to listen to it. That's as far as it goes. Bing, bang, boom. It was found obscene, and then it wasn't found obscene. I like this bit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Christopher Hitchens. He died a while ago, but he was a fairly outspoken atheist, just speaker in general. And I guess he wrote a column right after this the controversy occurred with the album. And specifically, it was in response to, or not in response to, but he was pointing to, on the cover of the album, it said, "If you don't like the record, you can kiss our motherfucking ass." That's what Two Live Crew is saying. And Hitchens wrote this, and I wanted to read it because I quite liked it. Precisely. It's obvious to this reviewer that the crew should be left alone and that their foul-mouthed attitude toward the gentler sex is a good-sounding excuse for a youth-hating and surreptitiously bigoted prosecution. I don't know the private thoughts of Sheriff Nick Navarro of Broward County, but I doubt they are worth a rat's behind, and see no reason why he should sublimate his own vagina-dreading disorders in this expensive and undemocratic fashion. The same applies to the preposterous Judge Jose Gonzalez Jr., who in ruling on Sheriff Navarro's raid opined that the music appeals to the loins, not the intellect. In fact, I think they are a pair of racist shitheads who should be told to fuck right off.
All right, well, there you go.
There you go.
Tell us what you really feel. Jesus Christ.
Now, listener, if you're wondering what is this material, I have pulled up several verses from different songs that at some point during this we'll probably talk about.
That is so cool. I was thinking about doing that. I was thinking about taking some selections, and I'm so glad you did, because I didn't. Share your thoughts on this little piece of musical history.
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah, so there were probably a lot of songs on this album that didn't really need to exist, that were kind of like repetitious of previous songs on the album. Like, there was a whole lot of points that they were making that they just kept on making. There were some songs that were quite catchy. I don't think there was really a whole lot of musical genius going on in this album, to be honest with you. But there was a whole lot of, you know, kind of that bravado, I don't give a fuck, I'm going to say what I want. There really was no punches pulled. It was it was interesting. It wasn't awful all the time. Sometimes it was no good. But there was a couple of songs on there that were kind of catchy, that made you laugh, made you chuckle at the ridiculousness of it. And I mean, I could definitely see why people would get fucking upset about an album like this. But compared to some of the shit that's come out since this, well, you know, there's still some there's some parts in this. There's some parts that were like, okay, buddy, like, calm the fuck down. A whole lot about bum sex and a whole lot about, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Like, there was, like I said, no punches pulled on this album. And if you got to give them something, you got to give them that. They just didn't fucking hold back.
Dave.
It's nasty, man. I mean, they called it as nasty as they want to be, and they weren't lying. It's nasty. I mean, I would never choose to put this on, but it's banging. It's banging start to back, in my opinion. This thing slaps hard. I can't believe there's... I mean... It made me question my sexual abilities. I mean, I have never once in my life thought I could just walk around and state in lyric that I was a hard-dicked pussy purveyor, but I wish I could. Like, I wish I had the confidence. Like, I just don't. Like, I just don't. But you know, it truly was nasty and just so cool. I mean, I know we're going to talk more about it, and we will probably just list it, but there are so many fantastic artists sampled. I heard Hendrix. I heard Van Halen. I mean, you know, I heard stuff from
Stanley Kubrick movies.
I heard Stanley Kubrick movies, right? Exactly. There's Jefferson Aeroplane in the scene from the Stanley Kubrick movie, just to really kind of amp up the sampling. The guy, Mr. Mix of Two Live Crew, he's the DJ. A turntablist is what I call them. And he's the guy sampling all this stuff on the turntables. And I think my greatest takeaway from the entire album is that their turntablist is stellar. That guy is very good. You have to understand, like, I don't know, I guess it's done in studio, so it's multiple tracks, but if you're trying to recreate this live, you've got 2 turntables and you're sampling this stuff back and forth and picking these spots within a piece of pressed vinyl. And
yeah, there was no digitization back then.
Yeah, like the stuff I'm familiar with my friends, like it's laptops and digital tables. This was sampling of pressed vinyl, and it is so tight. The cutting is amazing. There's some really great cutting on the album, and that's my biggest takeaway, is that Mr. Mix, who's the producer and turntablist, is really great. He is a talented individual. And he's a rock and roll artist. That's rock and roll rap for sure.
I recall there being at least one song in there where there was something that sounded like a guitar solo, but it sounded like it was being done on the turntable. That blew my mind.
Yeah, there's some really fantastic turntable work. Mr. Mix.
Yeah.
AKA David Hobbs.
So yeah, my take, I didn't hate it, much like Dave. I thought, like, from a musical sense, like I kind of stopped paying attention to the lyrics about halfway through, because, as Oren said, there is a lot of repetition. It's a lot of like, I got a big dick and I want to stuff it into pussies, and you know.
So accurate, like that's just so ridiculously accurate.
And so, like, about halfway through, because it's a fairly long album too. It's like, it's 18 tracks.
Yeah,
it's more than an hour. And so, yeah, about halfway through, I just started, like, kind of zoning out, browsing the web, and just vibing with the music. And for the most part, I really liked, musically, all of the tracks. But the only one that rubbed me the wrong way was the nursery rhyme one, because it didn't seem to click with me musically.
Okay.
And it didn't click with me lyrically. So, like, it was a foul ball in both those regards. It was just like an aborted attempt at trying to get a musical recording from Andrew Dice Clay, and that's a comedian that I never appreciated. So,
and I think there was like 3 songs on the album that were like pretty much exactly the same as that, like same flow, same everything.
Yeah.
I've got a verse from that POS of a tune coming up for later.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it right now. One of the big takeaways for me, we're talking about repetitious lyrics. Like, I kept kind of putting my head up going like, okay, so they're talking about getting your dick sucked on this one too, huh? Like, I just feel like it's a universal truth that no one's getting their dick sucked as much as they want. I tell you what.
There's always room for more of that in men's lives, is what you're saying.
But you know what? Like,
PSA from when bad things happen to good people. Let's get some more dick sucked out there. Come on.
That's right. There we go. You're speaking about dirty nursery rhymes. I've got a verse from it. Okay. This is hit by Brother Marcus. I've actually put a note on here to do it in an English accent. I don't think I can do any of this in my real voice, so I'm just going to play with this a little bit. Here we go.
Sure.
My mama and your mama was talking a little shit. My mama called your mama a bulldogged ass bitch. I know your sister, and that bitch ain't shit. She slayed me and all the boys, and even sucked our dicks. Jack and Jill went up the hill to have a little fun. Jack got mad, kicked Jill in the ass, 'cause she couldn't make him come.
You ain't got no shit for me. Ooh. My mama and your mama was talking a little shit. My mama called your mama a bull-dogging ass bitch. I know your sister, and the bitch ain't shit. She slayed me and all the boys, and even sucked our dick.
And it's there's a lot of that, so I understand why people would be upset.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like, you got to think of the mentality of people. That 89 is what? That's 32 years ago. But also, I was watching. There's a program on Amazon Prime, I think, that I've been watching called It Was the 90s, and it's a look back at what the 90s was like. And as someone who kind of was a teenager and early adult through that period, it was sort of a fun flashback to what existence was like, and a reminder that this was a time that on the one hand, previous to that, sex wasn't something that anybody really talked about openly. But this was also right at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, where you had to start talking about sex openly if you wanted to be engaging in sex without potentially fucking dying. And so I think this album came at a time, and I'm not saying that this was the intention of Two Live Crew to put out something like, oh, people are more comfortable talking about sex now, so let's, we'll put out this album that will do that. But I think it's a coincidental thing that it happened to kind of fall in the middle of this as people were opening up about sex, and and of course, the young, especially teenagers who were all thinking about sex constantly, want to play this album in their car stereo while they're driving down the road, proving how horny they are all the time, and how much they're getting it even when they're not. And yeah, I think it definitely hit at the right time.
Okay. I agree. I think in listening to it, that was one of the big takeaways for me, is just, I mean, they're saying things that make me blush, and I think someone should be. Like, as long as they're not hateful, hurtful things, I think that's a good thing in our society to have someone just pushing those limits, and I'm glad that these guys are out there doing it.
Well, and it's weird to listen to in 2021, I think, because, we just had Wet Ass Pussy as a thing not that long ago, which, admittedly, there's still plenty of pearl clutching about that as well. So, like, have we really come this far? I mean, I think the issue with Wet Ass Pussy is now you've got like women who were trying to express themselves sexually, and that has people being like, oh, no, we got to stop it there. We've already got men expressing themselves sexually. That's gone too far as it is. So it is interesting listening to it kind of after that, or in the context of that, and where we are right now as a society.
Agreed.
But I like the fact that, when you're talking about like people getting their panties in a bunch about this, I mean, I don't think Wet Ass Pussy is getting put up on obscenity charges, right? Like, I think we've moved forward in that respect.
That's true. But it's, again, the obscenity charges were only in one county in one state.
Right. Okay.
Admittedly, it almost went to the Supreme Court, but it still could happen that one little area someplace, decides to ban dancing, like in Footloose, and all of a sudden it's a whole thing.
Right.
All it takes is one place to be like, this is obscenity, and we're not going to stand for it. And maybe this is a good time for me to give you the not particularly good definition of what obscenity is in the U.S.
Okay.
I'd love to hear it.
So there's a couple of different Supreme Court cases that have kind of established the standards. And this is what they are. But again, what's interesting is it's not about these are things that are obscene. It's about, so here it is, whether the average person applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter, taken as a whole, appeals to prurient interests, i.e. in erotic, lascivious, abnormal, unhealthy, degrading, shameful, or morbid interest in nudity, sex, or excretion. That's definition 1. 2, whether the average person applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter depicts or describes sexual conduct in a patently offensive way, i.e. ultimate sexual acts, normal or perverted, actual or simulated, masturbation, excretory functions, lewd exhibition of the genitals, or sadomasochistic sexual abuse. And 3, whether a reasonable person finds that the matter, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value.
Right.
And it has to satisfy all 3, I believe.
And so like when I hear those, I go, you could apply that to this album. Like for instance, this classic song, Dick Almighty. Here's a little excerpt from the song Dick Almighty. Dick so powerful, she'll kneel and pray, awaiting her time, hoping soon to slay. That dick will make a bitch cry when fucking a bitch that's tight inside. That dick has got a spell on you. Once it gets inside, you'll act the fool. That dick will make a bitch act cute. Suck my dick, bitch, and make it puke. Jump on it. Grab it like you want it. If you could wear a dick, bitch, you would flaunt it. That dick.
Dick so powerful, she kneel and pray, awaiting her time, hoping soon to slay. That dick will make a bitch cry when fucking a bitch that's tight inside. That dick has got a spell on you. Once it gets inside, you'll act a fool. That dick will make a bitch act cute. Suck my dick, bitch, and make it puke. Jump up on it, grab it like you want it. If you could wear a dick, bitch, you would flaunt it. That dick.
That dick.
But see, that's where you get into the sticky area of what is
Sticky.
literary,
I heard
artistic,
it.
political, or scientific value, right? Like, that's the debate. Where is artistic value? Where do you define that? And like, for example, like both you and I, Dave, I think we agree that, like as you said, the album pretty much slaps.
Yeesh.
Does that alone give it artistic value? So, like, for example, if we were to put together an album that quote unquote slaps, and the lyrics though were all taken from Adolf Hitler's speeches, would that still have
Yes.
an artistic value?
Sure.
Yeah.
Without hearing it, I couldn't, make any further judgment. But yeah, I mean, how do the two relate to each other? You know, I don't know. I think, artistry's in the eye of the beholder, and I don't think there's very little I think should be banned.
I agree. I do agree.
Oren, what do you think about it all?
I don't know. I think it's a tough one, because I really don't think that people should be stifled. But I also think like maybe they had a point with this one. You know, maybe the parental advisory sticker wasn't enough. It was like maybe, adult only, rated R instead of like parental advisory kind of a thing, right? Same thing with. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I can't say that I would justify any platform that elevates a Nazi idealism.
Right.
I can't. Right. But also, but the flip side of that is you don't want things to be like creative things to be constricted. So if it was created in a way that was, artistic, but then that's really, not a structured idea. That is very much a subjective thing. It's hard to say. And I think maybe a cop-out would say, case by case basis. But I think that maybe in that instance, like if somebody came out with just this like killer album that just pushed Nazi idealism, and maybe that should be fucking banned, like maybe this really, really talented musician who happened to be a fucking Nazi and wanted to sing about it, maybe that should be fucking banned. I don't know. I don't think I know enough about censorship and political correctness to truly weigh.
Dude, you've only been doing this podcast for almost a year.
I know, but there's you know what? Like it's all been just personal reflection.
Yeah.
Which I guess is
But I
kind
think
of the basis of censorship anyway.
we are, like, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, we're just three average persons applying contemporary adult community standards and also being reasonable persons.
All right. Well,
So-
don't ban this album. Punch Nazis in the face. That's my...
There we go. That seems fair.
But Oren,
yeah.
the Nazi album fucking slaps. Like it fucking slaps.
Punch him anyway. Listen to it and then punch him.
Yeah, I'd be like, I like your tunes. They slap. But fucking Nazis. Bam.
Yeah, I shouldn't be trying to push Nazi ideals. That's definitely not my prerogative.
No. It's just, I think, like, how far does artistic value or literary value go? Like, how far can you go and still say this is a work that has artistic or literary value?
Okay.
It's kind of what my hypothetical question was. And I wasn't expecting anyone to go, it's here. this is exactly the line where it is.
You know what? I think I can almost give you a line in this album though.
Okay, in this album.
In this album, I think that where maybe they pushed it too far were the lines that involved things that were less consensual.
I agree. There's a little bit of that in there. I think I've got a few of them too. Oh, I think I might have deleted one because I kind of had a similar issue with it. But if we go right to like, so the album opens on Me So Horny, right? Big song, great song, banger of a tune.
Yeah, that's a good tune. That's
right?
Good tune.
It's lasted the years. So it opens on a sample from Full Metal Jacket with the Me So Horny thing. And then also a movie called Which Way Is Up, which starred Richard Pryor from 1977. And
there's a lot of Richard Pryor samples throughout this.
Right, definitely. There's an influence there. He was an orange picker who inadvertently he's forced out of town to leave his sexually obsessed father. And they use this like some moans from a scene where some chick's getting banged through a door or something like that. So in Me So Horny, one of the verses, verse 4, delivered by Fresh Kid Ice is, "It's true, you were a virgin until you met me. I was the first to make you hot and wetty. You tell your parents that we're going out, never to the movies, just straight to my house. You said it yourself, you like it like I do, put your lips on my dick and suck my asshole too. I'm a freak in heat, a dog without warning, my appetite is sex, 'cause me so horny."
It's true you were a virgin until you met me. I was the first to make you hot and wetty. You tell your parents that we're going out, never to the movies, just straight to my house. You said it yourself, you like it like I do. Put your lips on my dick and suck my
And that's the album in a nutshell,
Right.
there.
Yeah. But also super consensual in that sense, right? Like nothing about that was like.
Yeah, that bit was still
Yeah.
consensual
That
as far as
was
I could
consensual.
tell.
You are right.
There was a line I don't have it written down, but it was something about grab a bitch by the hair, throw her on the floor. That part stuck out to me. I don't know. I should have wrote it down. I'm sorry. I apologize for not doing that. But there was a couple, like there was that one specifically that stuck out in my head. There was one song that was like "Put It in the Bum," that didn't really seem super consensual in that sense. Like it was all about like sex, and then it was just like "Put it in the bum," you know.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was a couple of times within this album, but I gotta say, like the majority of the album was very, I think, sexually liberating.
Yeah, and sex positive.
Sex positive for sure. But definitely a couple of points that were problematic for me.
I do think, and I don't know what this actually means, but I think what you're referring to as put it in the bum was put her in the buck.
Oh, well, I don't know what that means, but that sounds way better than put it in the bum.
Well, it is put it in the buck, and I can actually disclose what we're talking about there. The buck is a sexual position. And in verse 2 of Put Her in the Buck, Brother Marcus explains what put her in the buck is. It's a position in sex. It's done by the masters. It ain't the 69 or what you learned in class. It increases the intensity of a fuck. Legs up high, known as the buck. It's the only way to give her more than she wants. Like the doggy style, you get all the cunt. Because all men try real hard to do it, to have her walking funny. We try to abuse it. A bitch think her pussy can do it all, so we try real hard to just bust the walls like this. And then you do the buck.
So what's the buck, though? That doesn't really explain what the buck is.
The buck is like
it's
the two legs,
position.
like you're holding her by her ankles. Those her feet are facing the ceiling, and you're just like,
right,
yeah. You're saying,
I'm so glad we were doing video calls as you do that, Dave. So we can see
you got to do the flying V, and and then just yeah.
Okay. Well, that one. Okay, that's one other way, but
say
still
hello to her lower intestine. You know.
Yeah, but I think there was still the hair pulling thing.
There was one
down on the floor. There was another one.
There was one about like you go down on me, but then like if you want me to eat your pussy, I'm gonna choke you out. There was.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that, and that's
that was there.
that's some. But I think that's. I mean.
But I think overall, sex positive. Definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
I think overall
Like, I
these
mean, there's
guys
even, like-
weren't getting enough fellatio. Like that's what I.
Even in the, if you look at Put Her in the Buck specifically, like it seems like you know, a lot of times guys have this reputation about just wanting to get their own rocks off and not caring about whether the woman has any pleasure. You know, obviously with Put Her in the Buck, the whole idea is like this is something that's going to drive her wild. So like even that is like these guys care about to some extent, occasionally, you know, what their partner is experiencing, right?
So I want to talk a little more about just the really amazing sampled music throughout this album. You know,
Yeah, please do.
I was discussing Mr. Mix of Two Live Crew, aka David Hobbs, born September 1963. But like he sampled really cool stuff, and that's why I need to know his name, because I'm assuming, you know, the turntablist is responsible for pulling this stuff and getting it onto the album. I mean, for one, we got vocal samples from Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. I mean, if that's not rock and roll, I really don't know what is. What else? Yeah, we got Andrew Dice Clay stand-up. There's a lot of stand-up in this. That's not the only one. There's Cheech and Chong on here. There's Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. I like the way that one was done.
Yeah.
Well, that was done with multiple other samples as well.
Yeah,
like
that led
one,
into a different sample, but I really dug it.
Yeah, they just barely used it, but they threw it there. Van Halen's Ain't Talking About Love is on this album, just that guitar riff. The doo 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 wow now now. And then like there's Beastie Boys, like they have that Beastie Boys sample in there. Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child is on here. There's some Eddie Murphy from Eddie Murphy Comedian, one of his stand-up specials. I mean, there's the guitar riff from Beatles' Day Tripper is in here, but it's re-recorded. It's not it's not the initial riff.
Oh, that's why it sounded
it's
different.
Definitely different. That or it says here replayed excerpt of the guitar riff. Yeah, so it's replayed. It's recorded by somebody else. But still, like we have the Beatles, Guns N' Roses, Van
I swear
Halen,
to God, there was a
Beastie
Metallica
Boys.
riff too.
No Metallica riffs. I think
What?
Yeah. No Metallica riffs.
What?
Title phrase sampled from Richard Pryor recording.
So yeah, this has been, I think it was the first album that was ever found to be obscene legally, and I didn't actually look to see if anything has been found obscene since.
I'm sure.
I guess I could look right now.
Why not?
Obscene albums.
How would podcasts go before Google? We'd just be like, hey, we never researched this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it was called television, and they would spend weeks in libraries and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's like we can just like, let's cut this section. Let's do a Google search. And then instead of saying, I don't know if this is a fact, we'll just come back like, this is how it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We've done that a few times in the podcast.
There's lots of band album covers.
When have you guys ever listened to an album and heard porn on it? I can think
was there porn in this album?
There was definitely porn on this album for sure.
Like audio pulled from pornography.
It must have been the way she was yelling to get it harder and come on me and come on my face and come in me. That had to. I don't know where you get that if you don't get it from porn. Let's actually go back to.
Or you get somebody to. You actually.
Well,
get
yeah, I'm like I don't
to
remember
say
there
it.
being any references to porn in the Wikipedia list of things they pulled from.
They might have just got somebody to come into the studio and fucking say those lines.
It was pulled from somewhere.
Like the moans from Put Her in the Buck are also from the song Jungle Fever by I think the Chakachas. I can't pronounce that, but the Chakachas that had moaning from the song Jungle Fever. They may have just recorded their own moaning too.
They have sex on that album. But.
There's lots and lots of moaning.
Yeah. The only other album I can think of that had that was Super Sexy Swingin' Sounds by Rob Zombie, or White Zombie back then.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard an album with porn on it, but it's not like I would immediately go, hey, I
That was
recognize that
porn.
from Backdoor Buttholes #7.
It just really sounded like porn. And I mean, like, that's just, you got to say that about it. Like, there's portions of tracks that sound like they're sampled from a pornography.
And I mean, that's the sound they were looking for, I guess.
It was.
Yeah.
It was as nasty as they wanted to be.
Exactly as nasty as they wanted to be. No more, no less. They knew what they wanted. They put it out there.
That's right. As a bunch of hard-dicked pussy purveyors.
So before we close things up,
Yes.
do you guys happen to remember that like really bluesy song that they did?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yes.
there was a whole lot of like, it started out with like, how could you cheat on me? How could you do that to me? And then it was like, I broke up this happy home. And then it was like, I slept with this woman on the street. It really like had just such this like, this shift. It was like, you cheated on me. Oh my God. But I'm a fucking slut. So I decided to rewrite the entire song into 4 lines, and I would
okay.
love to sing it for you if you don't mind.
You've truncated the song a
sure.
little bit.
Okay, it might take me a couple of times because it's been a while since I've actually heard the song, so I might get the like.
This was
tone a little wrong.
the 2 Live Blues, they called it, with the being a number 2 Live Blues.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it went bow bow down down down.
Exactly. You were sleeping with another man.
Bow down down down.
How could you do that to me?
Bow down down down.
I broke up a happy home
Bow down down down.
and probably got an STD.
Yep.
Is that the song in a nutshell?
That's the song in a nutshell. Yeah, that's about all you need to know about that song.
All right.
That was a great tune, man. There were a lot of great tunes on this thing. I mean, Reggae Joint was very cool. Totally
That
different
was fun
vibe.
too, yeah.
I did think the album had a bit of a story to tell. Like, it definitely at the beginning it was all about like fucking bitches and partying, and by the end they were a little bitter. Like the last 3,
Suck
4,
my
5,
dick.
6. Yeah, there was a lot of that. And then
Yeah.
right near the end though, like badass bitch and like get the fuck out of my house isn't about being
Yeah.
stoked on your lady, right? And so like
Right.
as the album went on, like near the end it goes my 7 bizzos, which is his 7 chicks for 7 days of the week, and then he's like,
Yeah.
and then the next song's like,
God.
you know what? I'm done with your shit. Get the fuck out of my house. And like, so definitely by the end of the album, it's like got a different vibe than the beginning. The beginning's all about like getting it on, and the end is kind of like, well, it's time for you to leave. And I thought that
That's
was a bit of a journey there.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out. I kind of missed that because, like I said, I was zoning out on the lyrics a little bit by the time I was halfway through, and I did miss that journey. But that's an interesting thing to point out that, again, that's something that could be argued as far as the artistic merit of the album is that this is, it is telling a story in a limited sense, and it is a journey of like, here, the ladies are awesome, and over here, it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired of all these ladies. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't know if it was like all. I don't know if it was all these ladies. I think it was like. That's a tough one because like that, especially with that 2 Live Blues one. Like it started out with like. You were sleeping with another man. Like it was like, as much as this album was sex positive, they still had this like, this monogamy to some of these songs, especially when it came to the man. Right, it was
And
like,
that's a point too.
I
Yeah, it
can
might
sleep
be,
with as many people as
Yeah.
I want, but like I want you as my main bitch. It's kind of like
That
it's
is
kind of a juxtaposition, right?
That is, you're very correct there. That's what the 2 Live Blues lyrics are like. It's, I bring home the bacon, I put it in your hand, but behind my back, you've been seeing another man. Now, I just cut about 3, I cut 3 bitches out of that phrase, but that is the sentiment there for sure.
Yeah. Worth noting that following this album, they put out the single "Banned in the USA," which used, with permission, the music from "Born in the USA." Bruce Springsteen gave them the rights to use the music. And they were so good at like, finding controversy and then finding ways to like turn that controversy
Exploit it?
into even
Yeah.
more sales and whatever else. I mean, whatever else you think of them, I think you got to at least respect them for that kind of business savvy.
And whether it was business savvy or not, like it was just like they just didn't give a fuck. I think.
I think there was that. I think things like the band in the USA, I think that was an intentional thing of like, we're now known as this band that went almost to the Supreme Court over obscenity. Now let's revel in that. Like, let's promote that that's who we are. We're going to put out this song that's just reveling in the fact that they tried to ban us and we're still fucking here.
Okay.
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 I think that was very intentional. And that was our journey through As Nasty as They Want to Be by Two Live Crew.
And apparently they want to be very, very nasty.
Very, very nasty. But still mostly sex positive and consensual. Any final thoughts?
It's aptly titled. It's very aptly titled. It truly is as nasty as they want to be, and it's self-indulgently so. And to that, I tip my cap. But in my personal time, I'm not sure if any of it's making my personal playlists.
Yeah, you're not adding any of these to any of your upcoming shows, Dave?
Definitely not going to be playing any of this live. But I mean, there was a tune or two that I thought I might toss in a playlist. I should maybe be a little bit kinder to it. There was some decent material there. I think as a listener, if you're going to go out there and maybe give it a listen, Coolin, right on the end of the albums, like Coolin is pretty darn good. I really enjoyed that. And Two Live Blues, for all that it's bad, has something going for it as well. And
honestly, Be So Horny, if you can handle it, is a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little overplayed in my mind. I like those deep cuts. But yeah, you're right, Todd. It's a great song.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the first single, so that's not a deep cut at all.
It wasn't great in my opinion. Like there's nothing, but I don't want to knock it either. Like there was something about it that was redeeming. I think it's definitely something that if you are a sex positive and curious individual, check it out, because they just do not pull punches in this album. A couple of times felt a little uncomfortable, but it's art, I gotta say. I can't even imagine this coming out in that time. Like I can't even, like, I can't, because I was only one when this came out. But when I think about like the sorts of things that were controversial even 10 years ago, the fact that this came out nearly over 30 years ago, because I just forgot I'm 33, so fuck me, I'm old as shit. But yeah, this came out over 30 years ago. It's kind of unreal a little in a way. So I think definitely if you're a curious soul, check it out. I'm with Dave, though. I don't think there's really a whole lot on this album that's going to stick with me for a long time. But I am really glad that I listened to this and got to kind of experience that a little bit. I mean, I give it, I don't know.
How many erections out of possible?
I was going to say, I'll give it 6 massive cocks out of 10.
Yeah, this album definitely gets 11 like fat, massive black cocks out of 10. Like, definitely.
There you go.
You liked it that much? You liked it? Okay.
On that scale, on that particular scale.
And I would say, like, if you are running a sex club in Florida or anywhere else, or if you're planning like a sex party in your home, there are probably worse things that you could put on your stereo to get the mood going. This might be a good go-to, or at least pick a few of these tracks to put into your track list or whatever. So that's what I would say. Thanks, everyone, for listening to yet another episode of When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Thanks to Dave Coalmine for joining us once again.
Thank you so much,
Dave.
Mysteries and Madness. Check everything out at theclubhouse.ca. Thank you.
Yes, go check that shit out. It's good stuff. You can find more about this podcast and other podcasts that I am on at the website blahblahblahmedia.com, as well as ways to support us over there via Patreon or buy me a coffee or buying some of our merch. We've got some cool merch available at our merch store.
Merchandise.
That's blahblahblahmedia.com. Go give it a look. Or,
do we have any
don't.
Band Things merch, or is it all?
No, we don't. So
it's all.
we don't.
It's all
we don't.
half-cut conspiracy merch.
It's all half-cut conspiracy merch for
That's
now.
okay.
For now,
That's okay.
I've got designs.
We just
got to
come up with something funny. That's all.
Yeah. Well, no, I still want to do a go read a fucking book shirt.
Okay, we can do go read a.
That's
Like,
obviously
that
what should be the
happen.
first
that
one.
Should happen.
Right.
I would own that shirt.
I've been Todd Sullivan.
I'm Oren Barter.
Hey, I'm guest host Dave Coalmine. Guest co-host. I need to do that again. Hi, I'm guest tri-host Dave Coalmine.
That's time to go read a fucking book.
And now, David Coalmine III reads The Fuck Shop by Brother Marquis, Mr. Mix, and Luther Campbell.
There's only one place where we can go, where the price is right, just to fuck a hoe. It's always popular with the girls and the guys, 'cause for all my money, it's the best buy. $10, 2 hours, it's the time of the stay. It's more than enough time to slay. Each room has a bed and also a sink, so you can wash your dick after fucking the pink. But be careful of the things that you use, 'cause you can get arrested for sexual abuse. So as you hit the door and the panties drop, a lot of sucking and fucking at the fuck shop.